and welcome to the Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is September 9th, and this is episode 122, I believe. I am your hostess, Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry, and the Fat Squirrel SQRRL on Instagram. Hi, how are you? Today's episode will contain shenanigans, ishiness, and it will contain knitting, no spinning, and it will contain wool pickery. Credit to the knit girls who are the first people I heard use the wool pickery term. Kudos, knit girls. I am a shameless copier of all things. I have not had original idea in quite some time now. It's shameful. But nonetheless, I'll try to remember the footnote, but I'm not always good at it. So if you think I've done something very clever, it's probably not me, quite frankly. Shenanigans! Apple picking. Oh yes, my friends. I'm going to touch my hair a lot. Don't be playing the drinking game. You're going to get alcohol poisoning. That's my disclaimer right now. Apple picking. So we had apple picking this week. Of course we did. It was the only weekend in September we had free to apple pick, so we did it. And oh my gosh, I love September apple picking so much. August apple picking is fun because it's the first apple picking, but there are fewer varieties available. And I do love the Akanis, don't get me wrong. But September apple picking is the best! It makes me crazy. I frolic in the apple orchard like a crazy person. So we picked Jonagolds, which I believe, I'm just making this up, are a Jonathan Golden Delicious hybrid, I believe. We picked a few Jonathans, we picked Cortlands, and we picked some Golden Delicious for the kiddo. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to know what they're doing to those trees. I'm sure it involves lots and lots of Miracle-Gro, dangerous pesticides, scary additives, and perhaps pagan sacrifice. But those trees have so many apples on them. This year is interesting because there's a lot more worm damage on your apples this year. Oh, I should actually talk about this for a minute. I don't know. I've never noticed it before. Occasionally, you know, when you're picking, you'll get one with a little wormhole in it. And you just don't take, if you're going to eat it right away, that's fine. I know you're like, oh my gosh, there's a worm in it. The worms are so itty. Just don't eat the part where the worm has made the hole into it. But if you're eating them right away, that's fine. But if you're picking them to store, do not take those home. Because those greedy little, insert expletives here, worms, will just munch through an apple and then come out and then munch through a different one. They'll never like totally, they just, it's like the buffalo in the plains carnage. They don't use the whole carcass. They just eat their tiny little tunnel through there and then like get it, and it's just, and then it just, the whole thing. Yes, you can cut around it, but it just ruins the whole joy. You know what I mean? Especially not if you're going to use them for like an apple butter or an applesauce where you're going to use the whole apple and not cut it up. Oh, be careful. Not that they would kill you, but nobody wants to find that, quite frankly. But so speaking of apples, we did pick, somebody on Instagram was like, you need an intervention. I was like, no, we didn't. We only picked 3 half bushels, which is like 60 pounds of apples. And as soon as I was like, it's only like 60 pounds of apples. I was like, oh, that does sound kind of crazy. Whatever. It's joyful. Shush. I'll preserve them. They won't go to waste. That's my week's chore. Oh, those apples are staring at me. You can pick 60 pounds of apples in less than an hour. However, you cannot store them or prepare them for storage in that time. That's the truth. Period. So, lots of applesauce and apple butter making in my near future. I'm going to try actually do the apple pie. I'm going to try to do the slices with the, you peel and slice and core, and then you put them in the sugar bath and just like for a minute, I think, for a few minutes. And then you can them in like quart containers. I'm going to try that this year. Last year I froze them, which is fine, but they do seem to lose a little bit of their vim and vigor. So we'll see how that goes. It's all about experimenting. I have enough to do it with. Because this won't be the end of our apple picking. No. There are also October varieties which I need to partake of, including the Black Twig and the Ida Red. The Black Twig I don't like as much, but I really enjoy that it's called the Black Twig, and it feels like a super old-timey variety. Therefore, I feel like I need it. Because I'm a nerd. But the Paula Reds are very delicious. And the October apples store much better. It usually goes in a progression. Early apples are not good storers. So use your early apples and your mid-season apples for any sort of preserving that you're going to be doing. And then if you want to actually have whole apples, like in their original state, then definitely wait for the latest apples, because they are going to store much longer. That said, I have never done the full-on, like... Okay, so let's talk about storing apples for just a minute, in case you don't know. In case you don't know, if you pick a big bag of apples... Did I say bag or back? Whatever. If you pick a big bag of apples, do not leave them in the bag. You can for a very short period of time, but not if you're going to store them for more than a month. Now, somehow my grandparents have always left them in the bags and they've never been a problem. But I secretly think that my grandparents must go in there. I've never asked them. I should. I think they must go through the bags periodically and take out anything that looks like it's, you know, going south. Because once, it's true, one bad apple spoils the bunch. Like, if you get one in there that's got a bruise that you didn't recognize, or what happens a lot when you get a giant bag of apples, it's essentially 20 pounds of apples. If you're storing it upright in that bag, not only is the pressure of the bag pushing in on the apples, but then the weight of the 20 other 4 pounds of apples is pushing on all the apples that are on the bottom, and they get messed up. They're not happy. So I do not recommend, unless you're magic like my grandparents, and they are magic, don't get me wrong, then I do not recommend storing them in the bags. And secretly, I think they go through them. They must, right? You will lose if you do not, refrigeration is always best, but not all of us have an extra refrigerator for apples, but some of us are really planning on getting one maybe soon. I know that's crazy, right? But really, you factor in the price per pound of apple, the joy of picking them, and by the time winter rolls around, apples start getting, like fancy apples, start getting pretty pricey. Those Honeycrisp are like $2.89 a pound come February. I'm just saying. It's a lot, especially since those giant apples now weigh like a pound almost. It doesn't seem that unrealistic to buy my own refrigerator for apples. Unless you're talking to my husband, and then it might seem unrealistic. Shush. So, if you're going to store them for any length of time, you need to go through them and make sure, like a week after you pick them, make sure that nothing is bruised. In fact, it's best if you give them just a little bit of time, just like to put them on your table, on towels or something. Because of course you're going to dedicate all that space to these apples because you're as crazy as I am, right? Just to make sure they aren't bruised or that they don't have secret wormholes in them. It's only been this year. I've never had trouble before. And then go through and pick those out and use them immediately. The other thing you want to do, really they say, which I've never done, is to go through them and wrap them all in newspaper, like individually, like little parcels, and then put them in the... And you don't want to store them in airtight containers, because if there's like a moisture issue, then hello. But you want to have those, you know, in a cool, dark place. You can look it up, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just telling you what the internet said. So you should consult the internet and blame them when things go south. But so I thought I should just mention that really quickly, because we did have friends once who picked apples with us, and then they had apples go bad, and I think forever that they blame the orchard, which, or me, maybe, for being crazy. But you can't, you gotta be really vigilant on the apples. You can't just let them sit. It's not like the grocery store apples are different. I don't know how they make them different, but they're different. They can sit in a bag forever. Also, that's like a 3 to 5 pound bag of apples versus like a 20-pound bag. So there's different pressure issues. But anyway, so just PSA-ish from the uninformed. That's what I'm saying. Or you just make an insane amount of apple butter and be so excited about it because it's awesome. And it's so much better than the stuff you buy. I will be honest with you, not everything you can make is better than what you can buy. But apple butter is certainly one of those things. No questions in my mind at all. Also, oh, I should tell you this. The other thing we did this week, the other thing I did this week, I have forever and ever and ever used a biscuit recipe that I really enjoy from America's Test Kitchen, the red binder. I think it's also in the blue binder. Both. I think it's maybe it's only in the blue binder. I don't know. I can't remember. But it's their biscuit recipe, which uses dehydrated buttermilk because I don't always have buttermilk on hand. And there have been many times in my life that I could not afford the extra like $2.40 in my grocery budget for buttermilk. And then the stress of like, this is going to drive me insane. Then the stress of like making sure that got used up before it went bad. Whatever, I'm crazy. But this week, for whatever reason, I know the reason, I had cream in the refrigerator. I had bought cream for something else. And then I had this cream that I was like, what am I going to do with this cream? Well, I tried the cream biscuit. Also from a blue binder. Amazing! And it has like 4 ingredients. I really seriously think it is flour, a very minimal amount of baking soda, cream, and salt. I could be making that up, but I'm almost sure that that's all that's in the stinking thing. And they were very delicious. They kept very well. They were very tender. Like they did not get as crusty. I don't know that I'm a complete convert. My husband was. My husband was like, these are the best biscuits ever. Don't ever make the other kind again. So I'm like, but it's not buttermilk. It's not real. What would my grandmother think? But they were pretty tasty. And the fun thing about them is the way they, I don't know, something about it. They split in half automatically. You don't have to like cut them in half or break them up. They literally just automatically go whoop and they fall into 2 pieces. You have to use real cream though, because that's the only fat in the entire shenanigan. There's no butter in them, which means you don't have to cut in butter. Which means you don't have to dirty up your food processor. You really just make this in a mixing bowl. And yes, you need it a few seconds on the counter and then cut it out. But like, I haven't tried them as just drop biscuits. Obviously, I've just tried them once. But you may even be able to just use them as drop biscuits. And then, what's up? All you eat is biscuits and apple butter forever. I don't recommend that. It's not part of the FDA's food plate. Oh, what is that food plate? My kid had a project on this last week, the food plate. Have you seen this thing? Not into the food plate. Whatever. Anyway. I have no basis. I just don't like the look of it. I just don't like the look of that. Anyway. So, what was else? Where was this even? Oh, I was talking about apples and then that all morphed into that. So there you go. I think I talked about all I need to talk about for apple picking, right? Yeah, that's it. It's exciting and awesome. Do it. Do it. Do it. I bought my kid overalls. Like the real farmer overalls, like the Liberty Key Big Smith. I don't know which one it is, but we may have worn matching overalls to the farm to pick apples. Life is good. That's all there is to it. So, okay, so that's enough of that. Let's talk about knitting and spinning and stuff. Okay. Oh my gosh, one more thing. Sorry. Liar. One more thing. One of our people in our group a while back when I was talking about the Tales from Green Valley, the farming thing that's on the BBC and the internets and whatnot. Dream Art, who is Lynn, thank you, Lynn, recommended that I should watch Pioneer Quest, and I am passing the recommendation on to you. It is more in the line of the Frontier House because it has the social dynamics as well as the historical immersion. It's not, but it's more like Frontier House where it's not like when you have larger groups of people, like Colonial House and what was the Ranch House one? Those they get way too interpersonal. Like when you have larger groups of people and they have different strata because of like, that was how it would have been when you have like the landowner and then the people under. That stresses me out. I'll watch them anyway, but it stresses me out in like a reality TV way, like in a Real Housewives kind of way, which I totally watched Real Housewives of Atlanta during my elliptical today. I think it might be my new exercise crack. Anyway, so shame. But they still make me uncomfortable, and I don't really like how that feels. But I still like Colonial House because I find it very interesting. But I get very frustrated because these people can't get anything done because they're too busy belly aching, essentially. Not that I wouldn't do the same, because I probably would. But I'm going to judge because I'm on this side of the screen. So Pioneer Quest is not as bad as those larger group dynamics because it's two couples. There's an older couple and a younger couple. Not old and not, well, those younger couple's pretty young. But you know what I mean? Like so there's two different age groups represented. But it's just the four people. So it's not as much, they still have drama, but it's not as intense. And it's well done. It's not played up and made creepy feeling. It's not like exploitative feeling. But one of the best things, okay, because it's Canadian. Canadians, I love you. Period. Anyway. I love my cheap shipping in America. And my apple orchards. But you know, sometimes free healthcare and whatever. Okay, so what was I gonna say? Oh, so okay, this is not the best thing about it, but I really enjoyed it. So I started watching it. It's available on Hulu Plus. I don't know where else it's available. It's called Pioneer Quest. So I watched the first episode by myself, and I was convinced that my husband should watch it, which he eventually did. But when I was like trying to like talk it up to him to like get him like, I was telling him about it, and I was like, I think it's set in like the late 80s, early 90s. Because like, you know, like the people, I was like, it seems like good film quality, but there were like lots of shoulder pads at the beginning. Like when they're interviewing different people and stuff, and it's like, there may have only been one set of shoulder pads, but you know how shoulder pads are just like a magnet for your eyeballs? Like you can't not see a shoulder pad. Like that's all there's to it. If you wear a shoulder pad, we're seeing it. Don't think we're not. We're seeing it. So it was like, I was like, it must be like in the late 80s, early 90s. Totally filmed in 2000. Canada! I love you! There are still shoulder pads in 2000 in Canada. Yes! And totally at the end, spoiler alert, not really. But there's like a woman and she has like a blazer with like a crest on it. I was like, oh, it's 2000! Yes, that's awesome. By the way, you should totally watch it. It's very good. There's some knitting in there. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. So that was my craziness. Okay, now let's actually talk about knitting and stuff. Okay, so I have a finished object. Just one. Actually, secretly, I feel like I finished my Viajange, but I have to block it. So, but I finished that dang thing. I didn't finish as much as some of you might think I should. I didn't use my full 2 skeins of yarn. When I tried it on, it seemed like it was even big enough, and I was just like, why draw this? Why make it too big? I don't want it to be like the one pictured, where it's down to the floor. I am sassy, but I am not that sassy. I just want it to like reach my fingertips on the long side. So anyway, so I have to block that, but I'll talk about it next week. But this week, what I do have finished and blocked is my Sister Bay by Paula Emmons Feasley of the Knitting Pipeline fame. And that is made with, that is made with Beaver Slide dry goods and the 2-ply sock and the mink and choke cherry colorways. I still have quite a bit left of both. I could probably actually do a flip-flop. I didn't actually measure the actual weights that are left, but I could at least do a small flip-flop. This is the larger size. So what I'm trying to say is I could have made a bigger one with this amount of yardage, but I have so many of the bigger shawls, I thought, no, maybe I should just do a Paula Says. And I think that was a good decision. Of course it was. Can you see? We can see everything. See how lovely the edging looks? Because it's an applied border. But isn't that beautiful right there? Bam! It's tight, Paula. Of course it is. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous about the Maine retreat. Can't even talk about it. So jealous, I can't even talk about it. Oh! Susan B. Anderson in Maine? And all the pipeliners? Of course I'm jealous. What are you gonna do? Can't go to everything. Okay, so that's very enjoyable. I like it quite a lot. Let's talk about some more stuff. Is everything else you're gonna see new? It totally is. Castonitis. Okay. Let's talk about the smallest thing first. So I have some Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And this is the Almanac colorway. Look at that. Shut up. Brooklyn Tweed. His yarn is a little bit more expensive than I would like, but oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. I know some people don't like it. Some people think it breaks. I don't think it breaks that easy. I mean, yes, if I tried to pull it apart, it would break, but I don't know that I totally would make a garment. I might regret it, but boy, it would be pleasant in it. Look at that. Shut up. So, I got this originally thinking that I would make a cable-y hat with it, but then I just loved it so much. I know this doesn't make any sense at all, because this yarn looks beautiful in cables, like gorgeous in texture. But then I decided I wanted a really plain hat for some reason. Part of it is because I had to buy 2 skeins. I had enough yarn to make this one hat that I've been wanting to make for a long time. And I don't have enough yarn to make it out of anything else. So I had to seize the day and whatnot. Does that make sense? I hope it did me. This hat requires a little bit more yardage than most of my worsted single skeins have. And so this would really be the only option for me to make it with, and things I currently own. Yeah, that made sense. It's the Nauvoo by Eva Coleman. This is a very small picture, but it's a very slouchy, very simple hat. And look at this. I don't even have the brim done. It's a folded brim. So I'm just barely into the part that you're going to actually see. So you cast on with provisional cast on. This is the first time I've tried the Judy's Magic cast on as my provisional cast on. I don't hate it, but I don't like this all hanging out. I think I'll just do the regular provisional. I use a crochet cast on and I like it quite a lot. Or just fine, I guess. But this is all this stuff hanging. It's too much stuff. I don't like all that stuff hanging. So it has this very basic little stripe of pearls, which you probably can't even see. So it's very basic. I don't know. I just loved it though. Also, I did some crazy hat planning out from what yarn I have and what hats I want to make, and all of the like textury Brooklyn Tweed hats were taken up by other yarns. So yes, I've started planning the hat season. It's out of control. The winter is coming. Just saying. Get your hats. So I don't have anything else to say about that. Oh, I was going to say that Froggy Monkey had some skeins of the tent colorway. She had a lot of trouble with veg matter. This has no veg matter. I think there's sometimes, this is, again, I'm making this up. Because really that's not how they do things. Like, to me, it's like there's some sort of like electronic eye and it like picks out the stuff. That's not really what happens though at like Harrisonville. I don't think they have that kind of thing. Because my thinking is like maybe like if they have too much color variegation, then like the the veg matter like blends in more. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So like it doesn't get kicked out, but that's not how they do it. So that's not really what's happening. So I have no idea why some colors, but that's the same thing with Peace Fleece. Some Peace Fleece colors have a ton of veg matter in them and others have none. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. Maybe it's just a batch issue. I don't know, but it's beautiful. Maybe certain dyes are caustic and like, that's interesting. Maybe certain dye chemicals actually dissolve some veg matter. I don't know, I'm just making that up. But that's an interesting thought. Do you know why? If you do, please put it on the boards and I'll share with everybody because that's very interesting. But so this one has no veg matter. Isn't that weird? And the gray I had, I don't think had, maybe it did have some veg matter. I can't remember now. It's been so long since I made that shawl. But I love this yarn so much. It's criminal how much I enjoy it. I totally want to use the Watershed too, which is Harrisonville's other yarn. Harrisonville makes this yarn, or mills this yarn for Brooklyn Tweed. But they also have a Watershed, which looks very similar. It's called Watershed. It looks very similar to this, but I just want to try it too. Whoa! I love you so much. Anyway. Okay, next thing. Oh my gosh, do you know we're doing a cow? Have you been napping? We're totally doing a cow. We're doing a vertebrae cow. You should join in. Tag your projects with a vert cow and you should play along. It's going to go through the end of October. And I was planning on casting on a mama vertebrae, and actually I did and worked like 6 rows of it. But then my child was all like, Mom, I need a sweater that is not hot, but that is still a sweater because I am cold at school, but not that cold. And I was like, well, that clearly means you need a mama vertebrae, or a kid vertebrae. A kid what? Really? The family, all they have to say is, I think that I would immediately enjoy the following knitted garment. I'm like, all right, I'm on it. I'm gonna go to the yarn today. So originally what I thought I would use for this is the same cotton blend that I used for my mama vertebrae, the Bernat Cottonish. But the red in that yarn is pinky peachy. It's not a red. And she has to have red, navy, black, or white. So I instead went with, even though this is a heavier weight, this is I think considered an Aran weight. It's listed as a 4 on the label, but I believe that Ravelry, I'm like, what's that thing we all use? I believe that Ravelry considers it an Aran weight. And this is just the Lion brand Cottonies, which I got at Joann's. I kind of like it. I don't kind of like it. I really like it. It's in my apple bag from Joanna Spring. It's been farm on Etsy. She's fancy. And so I totally have a kid over. Oh, and by the way, the cow is any of the vertebrae patterns. There's newborn, baby, kid, kitty, and mama. And the patterns are all by, oh, it cut off her name. Is it Kelly Brooker? Am I making that up? Her name's Brooker. Maybe, oh yes, it is Kelly Brooker. Okay. So the kitty one, just FYI, is written for 11 sizes. So 47.5 centimeters to 72.5 centimeters, which is approximately 18 to 24 months, up to 10 years. My kid is in the biggest size, and that seems to be very accurate. I measured her. She's 72 centimeters, and she is, while 7 years old, is in a size 10 clothing, because she's like 1 million feet tall. I just got pants for her, and I had to order the unhemmed version because I have to just barely turn up the edge to get them to fit around her. Not that she's a skinny mini, she's just kind of tall. And then it's written for it's written for fingering, DK, light worsted, heavy worsted, or bulky. So that's a lot of play. So what is that? 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 55 different options. That's a lot. So I will show you just briefly that your pattern looks something like this. So if this kind of format freaks you out, just FYI. I like this kind of format. I find it, I just go through and highlight like, oh, that's the size I need, and and I find it to be very user friendly. But I don't know that I would really like this format on like an e-reader as much. Do you know what I mean? Not that I can't highlight on the e-reader, but I feel like it looks more all the same when it's on an e-reader. I don't know how to explain that, but whatever. There you have it. So mine is with the Cottonese. I'm knitting the body on size 6s and the edging on size 5s. So I have the body done and the edging done. I tried it on her. It fits smashingly. And I did do this exactly as the pattern indicated. This is exactly what the pattern said to do. I know that never happens, so I feel like I had to announce it. And it seems to work. It fits her just like it fits her beautifully. It seems like it's going to stay on her shoulders. Whole thing. One thing I did do differently on this, which I'm glad about, I was a little bit worried about it falling off her shoulders. In the pattern, she says you should pick up 3 for 4 stitches around for the edging. And she does not differentiate where you're picking up vertical or horizontal stitches. And so, since there is sometimes an issue with it falling off, I went ahead and just picked up 3 for 4 along the back neck too, and I think that was a good idea. I think that's probably what she intended, but sometimes I just read the thing and just in my head make it what I want it to be. You know what I mean? You do that too, sure. So I did it exactly as indicated. It never happens. Even the hat, I have to admit to you, the hat gauge is written for 5 stitches per inch, and even though the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter 5 stitches per inch is on the ball band, I could not get it to be 5 stitches per inch. And we're down to like a 2. Still not 5 stitches per inch. I'm broken. So I just had to re-gauge the pattern. Re-hoodle-ollie it. So that's even a pattern. That's a hat pattern that I should be able to just do. Like, whatever. So there's that. Yay! That's a lot of knitting for 1 week. I know, right? Shut up. But again, it's an Aran weight. And she's 72.5 centimeters round. I bought 3 balls of this, and that's going to be plenty. It says, this is a kind of a weird thing. For each size, it just gives 1 yardage. So for 72 centimeters, 72.5 centimeters, she said you need approximately 500 yards. And I was like, wait, what? I need approximately 500 yards of fingering and approximately 500 yards of bulky? I guess so. I will not use nearly this whole thing because she wants short sleeves. So I'm gonna have to break into this 3rd ball. And these are 207 yards. Yeah, so I could not have gotten, again, I could have made it slightly shorter and maybe gotten away with 2 balls, but whatever. It's like $6.99. It is a really good red, and it makes good washcloths, I think. Because it is a, what is it, 50-50? It's 50 cotton, 50 acrylic. It feels really nice. And the blocked swatch seems to have really beautiful stitch definition. It doesn't feel too heavy. It's not hard on your hands at all. I'm kind of pro that yarn. Go with that. And then last thing, don't worry, I know I'm talking so much. Last thing. I'm knitting the upstairs, downstairs cowl in 3 sizes by who? Yes, Paula Emmons Feasley. She should have been my secret word of the day. It's Pee Wee Herman reference in case you're too young. I'm knitting mine with Leading Men Fiber Arts in the Dramaturge. In the Steve and Andy colorway. Did I just make that? That's right, right? Oh, shh. I know, right? And it's 100% superwash merino. I'm sorry, I thought I had the tag in here, but I don't. So that's why I'm keep looking like, no, really, I thought I put it in there. But I don't. So pretty. Everybody. You probably can't tell how pretty it is. You definitely can't. Oh, you can kind of tell a little bit. What? That's even like the seamy side. Let me show you the non-seamy side. What? And it's laying so beautifully, even without any blocking. It just is laying gorgeously. Like you could just not even block this. It's like, that's how nice it's looking. I'm sure it's both the yarn and the pattern, but it's gorgeous. Not like, oh, what? Now this is a DK. The pattern is written for sport. So I am using a Chow Gu, well, not that that matters, but I believe I'm using a 6. Sorry. No, I'm using a 5. I'm a liar. I'm using a US 5, which I believe is what was actually suggested for the sport weight version. But I usually have to go down 2 needle sizes, so it made sense if I went up here in size. Maybe it's a 6 they suggest. I don't know, whatever. But I'm using a 5. So Paula gives you a suggestion for how you can decrease the size. Like there's a small, medium, and large in 3 sizes. But since it's DK, I have exactly the amount of yarn that's required for the sport weight largest version. And so I'm going to go down a few pattern repeats. In fact, I went down 20 stitches. So that's 5-ish pattern repeats. So, but that's, like, the pattern is very easy to do that with. So just in case. And plus she also gives you percentages. So you can check your progress every so often. Like, am I still on track to use all this yarn? Do I need to shorten up this middle repeat a little bit? Like, you know, you can figure that out. I think that's all. Yeah, that's totally all. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely week, and I will talk to you next time.